each and every one of us in some ways suffers from some addiction. It could be as benign as shopping and as tragic as heroin. I remember, there were signs that something just didn't quite feel the same. We came to find out that addiction had reared its ugly head again. And it wasn't long before what we suspected had become a real issue. We tried to get him help. I can remember on one occasion, he'd called me and he said that he was in a very desperate place and that he felt like ending it all. It was 2 or 3 in the morning. I got up, put my clothes on. I said, don't do anything irrational. I'll come down, we'll talk about this, we'll get help. So I rushed down and by the way we measure success, he had every success. But addiction has no bias against socioeconomic status. His descent into hell was at that point it wasn't a slow elevator ride at the bottom, it was a free fall. And then he disappeared. And he disappeared to the streets. That's where he ended up. And I remember getting a call from my brother and he said, is it possible that he's homeless? And I said, not only is it possible, but it's highly probable. He said, I was just going through a drive-through and I saw him sitting on the curb, sorting through cigarette butts and talking to himself. It's amazing how quickly addiction can take you from a place of relative promise and you're able to function day to day to the place where ultimately now that he's at. And when people are out on the street, man, they are stripped of fucking everything. Their dignity, their humanity, their identity. Ultimately, addiction took his life. I never would have thought it would have happened to a friend. I put a camera in my car and I thought, maybe I can take some pictures on the street, use art as an instrument to carry a voice for those that don't have a voice, and at the same time then pay honor to a friend's memory. I wasn't sure how I was going to approach people with dignity, a measure of dignity, and how I was really frankly going to approach people at all. It felt very foreign. But there was a man on 32nd Street in Thomas here in Phoenix, cameras in the car. He's, the language that those that are on the street would use is he was flying a sign. So he was holding a sign that indicated that he was a Vietnam vet and that he was in need. I walked up, I was nervous, and I said that I was a photographer. So I mentioned that I was working on a project for people in need, that a friend of mine had experienced homelessness, that he was no longer with us, that I was creating this art and advocacy project and I was going to use art as an instrument to carry a voice and to create a measure of awareness so that people would begin to look at individuals on the street rather than look through them or beyond them or past them or as though they were a window. And I said, I don't know if you're in need or not, but if you are, I'd love to have a conversation. And he said, hey man, I'm homeless. I'll talk to you. The project had no construct. I didn't even know what I was going to call it. When he and I began to talk and when he had indicated that he would sit down and have that conversation and allow me to take a photograph, I realized I had to introduce myself. And I said, forgive me, man, my name's Johnny. What's your name? And he started to cry. He started to weep, I started to cry. It was heavy, still heavy. I realized what had happened in that moment. And he, with his eyes filled with tears, he looked at me and he said, you have no idea how long it's been since somebody's cared to ask me who I am. And that man's name is Chuck Ridgway. I don't know if Chuck is still with us or not. I never saw him again after that photograph. I haven't thought about this for a long time, but that he's responsible for all of this.